You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley. Warning. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley.
That's right.
Warning.
You have entered the propaganda report with your host, Brad Binkley. And we've got a great show for you this late evening, February 18th, 2026. Going to show you proof that Bill Clinton hasn't been exactly telling the truth in his recent statements about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, nor has Hillary Clinton in her support of his statements. And again, as I did a few weeks ago, tell you what questions the House Oversight Committee should ask Bill Clinton next week when he testifies before them on Friday, February 27th. Hillary's testifying the day before. As of now, things could change. But I know what they should ask them to reveal these lies. And I also know that they almost definitely will not. But first, before we reveal those questions and the surprising statements to me, actually, that Bill Clinton's been making, because they're so easy to disprove, like easy to disprove. Before we do that, I want to do something I almost never do. Those of you who listen to the show frequently know that I almost never do this, but I have to do this to support the show. And that is tell you guys, if you do enjoy the show and it brings value to you, share it with a friend, leave a 5-star review. That warms my heart. Subscribe to the Propaganda Report podcast on your podcast app of choice. Smash the like button if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube. Leave a super chat tip or subscribe to the Propaganda Report Patreon or Locals, where you can get access to the show, the subscriber-only show that I do with Sam Tripoli and Austin Picard called Whatever This Is. It's a weekly conspiratorial deep dive into all things crazy, and it's a lot of fun. Subscribe at the lowest tier. You'll get that show, and you'll also get ad-free audio-only version of the show if you listen on audio. And on that note, if you're not ready to subscribe and you're listening on audio, let the ads play through. That's another way to support the show. We don't get anything if the ads are skipped, so if you let them play through, it helps us out a lot. And in comparison, if you were listening to a 3-hour WSB radio show, which I used to be on WSB, this was very frustrating. What you would get in those 3 hours is you would get 90 minutes, an hour and a half of erectile dysfunction ads. That's a lot of ads. Now, you also get like 20 more minutes of whatever ads the host is pushing. So that's almost 2 hours of ads during a 3-hour show. I do more content in one show than these hosts do in 3 weeks. You'll get 5 minutes of ads most for a comparably long show here, so let them play through. It does help us out, and subscribe on all the platforms. Patreon if you want. Also Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, /Brad Binkley. All the links are in bio at Freedom Act Radio on X, where you should be following me also. And you can find all the places to help out and subscribe. And if you don't want to subscribe, but you do just want to support the show, then you can go to paypal.me. Let me find that link, make sure I'm telling you the right link. You can do that at paypal.me/Brad Binkley, where you can make a one-time donation or a monthly donation if you like. Or, and we're going to get to the show, and I never do this. I have to promote myself every now and then because I'm not like all those con artists that we see all over the internet. I don't make much money at all, unlike them selling $200 signed books and shirts with pictures of their faces all over. Who wants to buy a shirt of their favorite influencer's face and a bunch of different modeling pictures? It's a little weird. Nevertheless, not to go on a tangent, here's something you can do that would be helpful is you can, let me show you Edmund. I got the Edmund dog cam going. There he is. He's resting over there. There we are. Edmund has found himself in a competition. He's doing pretty well in it. It's America's, what's it called? America's favorite pet. I think they should call it America's next top pet because I think favorite would make people not want to vote for their friends' pets because everybody sees their pet as their favorite. So I would recommend a new branding on it. But it's Donnie Wahlberg and I almost said Jenna Jameson. That's definitely not his wife, Jenna Jameson. I can't remember who his wife is. But it's that hot blonde that used to be married to Jim Carrey. Who is Donnie Wahlberg wife? Jenny McCarthy. Much classier. And Jenny McCarthy is beautiful. Questions vaccines, and they're doing a dog contest. New Kids on the Block, and Jenny McCarthy is perfect. And here's Edmund's profile here. Edmund won his round, so they had him broken off into different rounds, and he won his initial round. He got first place, and now he's in the quarterfinals, and he's currently in fourth place of the quarterfinals. Obviously, you go to the semis after that, but they do it in groups, so it's not like him versus another dog or another pet. It's a bunch of them. And so you can go to this site here, and I'll put it in the chats, and you can vote for Edmund to win this contest and give him the opportunity, which he doesn't care about at all. Only I care about him being on the cover of, what's the magazine called? It's like Dog Magazine. Hold on. Modern Dog Magazine is the first place prize, along with $10,000. He got through the first round. He's in the quarters. Edmund could win $10,000, be on the cover of a magazine with the help of your votes, which would help him get lots and lots of fun treats and toys, and also help support the show. Something easy and fun. Let's get him back up here. There he is. Let me show you his profile. And I am going to get to the show after this. Where's the rest of his photos? Oh, there's a bunch of his photos there. There's Edmund Dog in all his glory. Just being the greatest dog, in my opinion, ever. So there's another way to help out and have a little fun if you like animals. Let me put that in the chats because, you know, everybody's got the best dog. All of our dogs are the best boys and girls. What's up, JC? Yeah, he's got this great. He's a good boy. He's a very good looking guy. He's handsome. He's a charmer. I tell you what, he's a charmer at those Starbucks drive-through windows. Even the they-thems at the Starbucks drive-through windows are softened a little bit. Usually I go through a Starbucks drive-through window. I pull up to the window after ordering, and I fear for my life because the person staring back at me seems very down and depressed, and like they're in the middle of a transition from a guy to a girl. And like, if I don't hit that $1, you got one question to answer here, that's it. If I don't hit that $1, I feel like they're going to climb to the top of a roof and maybe attempt to blow my brains out. So it's a hostage situation. I push the button. There's your dollar. I don't care. Just make it another day. But even Edmund can soften the toughest transitioning they-them barista. Would you like a pup cup? No, I would not like a pup cup. It's full of sugar and poison for animals. This idea of a pup cup, would you like some poison for your animal? No, thank you. Just for myself. I would just like poison for myself. All right. What's going on? Frighten me. Best boys. That's right. That's right. Pit mix. He's a pit mix with a boxer. Yeah, he's a good boy. Good protector dog. He's a playful dog. My sister rescued his mom. She brought her back to her place and found out like a week later that she was pregnant, ended up having 9 puppies. And Edmund was the runt of the litter. And he's a ball of energy. Look at this guy. Look at that smile. Look at that smile on that guy right there. Oh, you're not even looking at it. You're not even seeing it. Hold on. This is a smile. This is an all-American smile right here. Look at that. That's a smile. All right, enough of that. I promised you guys a show, so that's what we need to do here. Let me get that off screen. Okay, so let's get started. By the way, propagandafight.com is my website. And you can find all my shows there as well. So we're going to start with Les Wexner and shift into Bill Clinton because it's relevant. There's something that they're both doing right now. Wexner testified today before Congress behind closed doors. It's like, come on. The most transparent presidency ever. And you're having these guys who are named as co-conspirators and in these Epstein files, documents, court documents in Lex's case. And you're questioning them behind closed doors. That's not transparent. People want to see this. Maybe he wasn't going to do it. Maybe he was going to flee the country or something, or he's going to be in contempt of Congress. But this is a spectacle that's going to get eyeballs right here. Maybe they're worried they won't be fully honest if it's in front of the public, but I would think they would be really combative and maybe even reveal more things if it's public. You know what they should do? What they should really do is they should have a couple of people working the computers, maybe the 4 skiff computers that had all the files. They say there was only 4 computers and they were old-timey computers and you couldn't even type on them. It was dial up like, that's what they said. Everybody's like, I went in there, it was the oldest, most broke-down computer, and you had to log in through AOL, and it made that. They just made it seem like it was a Stone Age trying to search, and that's probably true. They probably did make it difficult. But all of us could search. They just had a little bit of redaction, and you can actually find out what's under the redaction with a little bit of, you can deduce a lot of it. And a lot of the documents are repeated. They're in there multiple times. So they're not redacted in most of them. Nevertheless, need someone taking questions from the public, and they need to be doing these things live. You have Les Wexner in there. You get, maybe who do we put on the computer? Who can we trust on the computer? Jasmine Crockett. No, she wouldn't be a good one. She'd probably take, I don't think we can trust her on the computer. Nancy May. No, she'd just have her breast out the whole time. Who can we put on the computer? Mike Johnson. Put Mike Johnson on the computer, and we make sure it has to be equal, just like talk radio. You got to give equal time. And the public chimes in with questions. And we get to also be a part of this process of questioning these people who we have been asking them to reveal to us for so long. But instead, they do it behind closed doors. And here's what we learned from Les Wexner's testimony. He told lawmakers, I'm a little bit, I feel bad now because of my previous view of him. He testified that he was conned by Jeffrey Epstein and he did nothing wrong. The 88-year-old former Victoria's Secret CEO denied that he was Epstein's co-conspirator as it was listed in the unredacted document, a document that I've actually been calling for the unredaction of for 9 years now. They finally did it. You know, when you've been trying to get something exposed for 9 years and people tell you you're crazy for half the time and it finally gets exposed and it seems like it's normal, it feels good that it's out there, but it's also like people don't realize how dangerous it was to try and expose this in the past. It slowly got normalized, and that's good. And we have him out here. It is good that we're trying to get answers out of him. But it's a weird thing. It really is to see certain information not even allowed. You can't even speak of it. You'll get kicked off the radio. Your website will be taken down. Now being brought to light. And that does make me happy. Wish he would have done sooner. Nevertheless, he's not one of the co-conspirators, he says. And he says that he was actually duped. This is his quote. Wexner said he was duped by a world-class con man, and that he never witnessed nor had any knowledge of Epstein's criminal activity. He was duped. What a thing for a billionaire who prides himself on his intelligence and his acumen and his ability to read people, because if you're that wealthy, you're going to be good at that. He swallows his pride and admits that he got. Not a lot of people would do that, and I'm certain he would have done it anyway, even if he wasn't being called to testify before Congress for being named as a co-conspirator. He would have done that anyway. It had nothing to do with that, obviously. In his statement, in fact, not only said he knew nothing and he was duped, he maintained that he was, in fact, himself a victim of Jeffrey Epstein, just like all these other people. He was victimized. He'd been ripped off by what he said was a person that he trusted who lived a double life. He was clever, he was diabolical, and he was a master manipulator. And he got that Les Wexner plus apparently the way he's talking. It sounds like Les Wexner was butt naked, giving Jeffrey massages and that final, finishing that thing off along with all these other ones. Maybe next time Pam Bondi is testifying before Congress and we see that image, that PR stunt, where all the victims stand up behind her in solidarity with each other and they shoot a disapproving glare at her together, we'll see Les Wexner standing in line in solidarity with them. As we now know, he was just as much a victim of Jeffrey Epstein as they were. The ones that we believe, I should say. I don't believe all of them. I believe some of them. I don't believe all of them. Some of them are like 80 years old, it feels like. Not all of them, but some of these victims that come forward are like almost 60 years old. And they're like, Jeffrey Epstein victimized me. And it's like, you had to be like 35 or 40. At what point are you just making bad choices? And there's that thing that always happens with these cases where a bunch of people jump on to try and get cash in. It sucks. It sucks that there's people like that because it takes away from the actual people being victimized. So please stop doing that if you're not a real victim and you made a bad choice, because we have real victims like Les Wexner. Okay? I thought that he was involved the whole time. I thought that he was giving them money to build up his whatever, one of the main sources of his money from the 80s. And I thought, like it said in the document, maybe a co-conspirator. It never crossed my mind that he was butt naked massaging Jeffrey Epstein, just like Guffrey, Virginia Roberts Guffrey. He's carrying on her legacy after her passing because he was just like her. He came from a broken family. Maybe his parents were fighting. Maybe his father wasn't around. Maybe he fell into drugs. And Jeffrey Epstein sent Ghislaine Maxwell out, and they found Les Wexner kicking rocks around, smoking doobies, getting into stuff that someone as young as him at the age of, 65 at the time in the 80s, whatever. I don't know how old he was then. He seems like 100 now. He was an older guy who fell into some bad times because he didn't have a fatherly figure. And so Ghislaine Maxwell said, "Oh, you have beautiful hands, Dex. Your hands are so beautiful. Would you like to make $200 tonight?" He's like, "Well, I'm almost a billionaire." He's like, "But would you like to make $200 tonight?" In a fun way. And he's like, my dad won't let me leave the house. And boom, brings him over, puts him in a 2-piece bikini, and he's blowing Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought he was collaborating, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Les Wexner. Please forgive me. Let's move on. A master manipulator, diabolical. Isn't that crazy? Les Wexner gets up there, and they're all doing this. All these guys are doing this now. They all are like, "I didn't know anything. He was diabolical. I'm so stupid." These guys would never, ever say they got or call themselves or make it seem like they're dumb in any other context than their names showing up in the Epstein files. And this is how we're going to connect it to Bill Clinton in a second. He also said during his statement, he said, talking about Epstein, the other life that he led, that we now know was full of unthinkable crimes, he most carefully and fully hid from me. He knew that I would have never tolerated his horrible behavior. Epstein knew that. He was such an upstanding guy. He had morals, he had principles, and Epstein knew that if he found out what he was doing, then the primary source of all of his money since the 80s would have pulled out of it. And Epstein did it anyway. That's crazy, the risk he took. Must have been good at it, but he didn't know. He would never have tolerated. He knew that Epstein knew that Wexner would never have tolerated Epstein's horrible behavior. Not any of it, he said. At no time did I ever witness the side of Epstein's life for which he is now infamous. That's his statement to Congress. He was a victim. He never saw anything. Guy's been funding him for 30 years, or maybe it's 25 years he funded him. What that means, what this tells us, reading the subtext here, is that we have a new Epstein victim, obviously, Les Wexner, but it tells us that Epstein was a little more crafty, a little more discreet than perhaps we previously realized. I'd never really thought of Jeffrey Epstein and what a discreet person who can really hide who he truly is. I've never viewed him that way. But Les Wexner, I would like to have heard what Les thought that he was. The type of guy that in his mind, he believed Jeffrey Epstein to be. He must have thought him to be upstanding because he himself is so moral and principled, as we can tell by his statement. He doesn't put up with any of that stuff. He must have thought Epstein was just as against the type of stuff Epstein was doing as he was. Because that would tell a story of how he did that. So I would like to bring him back in and find out more. But Epstein must have been spy-like discreet. Maybe this lends some credibility to the belief by many, myself included, that he was some sort of spy operative for whoever. That he was so good at keeping his deviant behavior discreet that the man who funded him, the billionaire behind much of Epstein's rise, who spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein, you would think. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein surrounded himself by these billionaire elitists. They did the billionaire dinners, the world domination dinners, come to the island, get on the plane. He seemingly was always surrounded by people with eyeballs on him. People you would think would be watching him closely because of, money transactions, and you didn't know if they could trust him. And yet he was still able to keep that behavior a secret from the man who might have had the most close-up access to his behavior. That is, my friends, quite a discreet spy. That's the skill you need, is to be able to hide that. And we also find out, which I'll read this in a moment, that he didn't give all this money to Epstein. Epstein stole it from him. Epstein stole tens of millions of dollars from Les Wexner, which Wexner didn't find out about until he finally did an audit of his finances. His wife did, after Epstein was first arrested in 2006 or convicted 2007. So he'd been working with the guy for almost 30 years. Never once did this billionaire dude, who you would think would do this kind of thing, never once did he look into his financial records until he said, oh my God, I had no idea. Jeffrey, we went to church together every Sunday. He was my faith brother. We talked about Christ together in our walks and our journeys and the hope we have for humanity and the good we want to do. I had no idea he was trafficking children and doing weird sex things on an island. I thought the island was to bring people to Christ. So therefore, I also had no idea that at the same time, my brother, who I thought in Christ, was robbing me blind of tens of millions of dollars because I'm so wealthy. I'm so wealthy that I didn't notice for 27 years that one of the guys closest to me was stealing tens of millions of dollars from me. Oh my God. Oops, I had no idea. I'm a victim. I stand in solidarity. I was just as raped. Poor Wes Wexner. What a weird name that is, too. Let's see if that checks out. Let's see if his story, if this checks out, if other accounts of Jeffrey Epstein show that Epstein was so super discreet that nobody had any idea that he could have been such a creep and not the best dude to maybe get involved with. This is, so after Epstein was arrested, actually this didn't happen until about 2016, so it was years after he got out. There were a bunch of investigations done and reports published on these investigations by the universities that he had funded institutions at the universities. Like at Harvard, it was a program for evolutionary dynamics. That's PED. I can't remember what the name of the Arizona State or the MIT one was. But this is a report. So these reports will probably reveal exactly what Wexner is saying, that he's a con artist, that even the most astute businessman with almost $1 billion now, wouldn't be able to recognize the deception of. Let's see if we can find some corroborating evidence here. This report is titled, it's the Harvard report. I've quoted it quite often. Harvard, okay, it's the report concerning Jeffrey Epstein's connection to Harvard. And it includes a lot of Martin Novick, which is another guy I talk about a lot. He is a popular guy in the files. So, Epstein, and if you've listened to some of my past shows, I've explained what Epstein was doing here with the Visiting Fellow program. He became a Visiting Fellow at Harvard. Visiting Fellows are programs that allow graduate students to use the university's resources to pursue their graduate PhDs and research projects, usually given to like a 23, 24-year-old. They gave one to, at the time, a 52-year-old Epstein with the help of Martin Novick. And Epstein said that he wanted to study in his application, just to sum it up, basically brainwashing techniques using thermal imaging to check how the brain reacts to certain stimuli and whatnot. It's real right up his alley, basically. But here it says in the document, Epstein's activities as a visiting fellow. Epstein formally registered as a visiting fellow in September of 2005. An administer Epstein's appearing, what am I reading wrong here? An administer Epstein's appearing at registration, accompanied, I think that I must have a word missing here. Oh, so that's, yeah, I had the screen too big, so there's a word that made that sentence weird that was missing. An administrator recalled Epstein appearing at registration accompanied by several women who appeared to be in their 20s. The administrator also recalled, so he shows up trying to get approved. He's trying to win their approval. He's already 30 years older than everybody else applying. He's already only in there because of the funding of this PED program and the buying off of this Martin Novick scientist, who he called his favorite scientist. And so he rolls into this application-like interview to this administrator. He's got two chicks on his arm, like co-eds in their 20s. The administrator also recalled that Epstein did not participate in any of the activities that Harvard organized for visiting fellows. Professor Koslin informed us that Epstein did little of the work his plan outlined, and Koslin's recollection, quote, he was barely ever around. That's because he was at the off-campus PED center that he funded having parties. Epstein did not have an office in the psychology department, but as we discussed before, had an office available for his use at Harvard's program for evolutionary dynamics, which he funded that, and he specifically moved it off campus so he could do what he wanted there. And he put that Martin Novick guy as like his secretary in charge of it. Koslin did recall Epstein sitting in the back of one session of a joint law and psychology class where undergraduates were present. Let's see if that's what I want to get there. Oh, wait. No, there's more of this here. When he visited. Okay. So he visited the PED center that he funded. When Epstein visited the PED center, he typically met with leading scholars from Harvard and elsewhere in science and math, and occasionally individuals involved in public life. Epstein, rather than Professor Novick, was the driving force behind the meetings. The meetings often took place on weekends. although some occurred during the week. Epstein selected the dates, sometimes on short notice, to Professor Novick, and generally set the guest list. Although on some occasions Novick would take the initiative to invite academics he believed would interest Epstein. Epstein often invited scholars from other institutions to meet with him when he came to the PED. It sounds like PETA. I mean, it's just like, it's couldn't be more on the nose here. Indeed, Epstein met with faculty from other institutions at least as often as with Harvard faculty. On occasion, Epstein was also invited political figures to the PED office. Epstein was routinely accompanied on these visits by young women described as being in their 20s who acted as his assistants. The meetings generally focused on current research and scholars in attendance, although Epstein also occasionally used the PED offices for dinners. He generally chose a guest list and sometimes asked questions, but did not generally lead the discussion or choose the topics. Taken as a whole, the documents suggest that Epstein viewed the PED office as available for his use whenever he wished to gather academics together to hear scholars talk about subjects Epstein found interesting. So he rolls in with chicks 30 years younger than him on his arm. He uses the PED center that he funds for like a little party center. He never doesn't show up with some chicks. Wasn't very discreet in that context. Now, that's not illegal activity, but it's a hint towards maybe there's a little something off. Maybe Les Wexner didn't see that. There's another report, I believe it's from Arizona State, that reveals that Epstein would gather these scientists together to have discussions. And at these dinners and meetings that he organized, he would show up late and he would have young chicks on his arm, same description as here. And he would just make out disgustingly in front of everyone. It's like a scientific gathering, and he's, tonsil hockeying these 20-year-olds in front of all of these old men, which he was at the time. And then he would walk into groups of scientists that he had organized there, like at the billionaire dinners, and he would interrupt their conversations by saying, "What's this have to do with pussy?" That was his line. Couple of guys talking. "Oh, we're here with Epstein, evolutionary dynamics. How can we manipulate the brain and control people?" Epstein walks in. "What's all this got to do with pussy?" Not illegal. Doesn't seem like something a discreet man would do, calling into question the claims made by the newly realized victim, Les Wexner. It's so absurd to claim that you've known this guy, you knew this guy for 30 years. He has tens of millions of dollars of your money. You're one of the most closely associated people. I had no idea. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe, I should check something else. There was a birthday book. Maybe Les Wexner didn't do something creepy in the birthday book. Let me see. I'm trying to give him the benefit of doubt here. Let's see what he said. In when he turned 50, Epstein's birthday book. Oh, no. January 20th, 2003, Les Wexner's entry into the birthday book that Maxwell put together. "Dear Jeffrey, I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is." And drew some titties. Look, pretty good artist, this Les Wexner. Those are some nice titties. Like, those are some perky titties. He didn't draw saggy titties. He drew some perky titties. I believe Les Wexner might be misleading Congress, and that maybe he did suspect that Jeffrey Epstein was engaged in maybe some activities that weren't quite so legal. Happy birthday, your friend, Leslie. Calls himself Leslie. Call yourself Leslie. Unless you're Leslie Nielsen. Don't call yourself Leslie, okay? All right. Now we're going to transition. So obviously he's full of it. And his messaging about Epstein sounds very similar to what others are saying now that I had no idea. He was just a brilliant con artist. I never saw anything. He was so discreet. All these people on this island, and somehow he's got tunnels in the sand. How could I never saw it? I thought he was a great guy. Here, actually, before I go to Clinton, this is what Wexner said about the money, about the con man. Wexner said that he permanently parted ways with Epstein in 2007 after he was charged with soliciting prostitution of a minor at the plea deal. He said that after he was charged, this is what I was talking about earlier, his wife, Abigail, began reviewing their financial documents, finally. After 30 years, she began reviewing them. The documents that Epstein had managed. And that after reviewing the documents, it became clear to his wife that Epstein had stolen vast sums from their family. And he said, once I learned of his abusive conduct and theft from my family, I never spoke with Epstein again, never. Well, it's a very easy thing to say after he is a convicted sex offender. He said, quote, in September 2007, 9 months before he pled guilty in Florida, we revoked, but he was under investigation. We revoked Epstein's power of attorney. He had power of attorney. That's crazy. Like, what a revelation in that sense. We revoked power of attorney. Wow, wait, he had power of attorney over your finances? That's crazy. You know, you have to really trust someone to give them power of attorney over your finances. And they met in the 80s. How long did he have power of attorney? In September 2007, 9 months before he pled guilty, we revoked Epstein's power of attorney, removed his access to our bank accounts, and forced him to resign from all of our affiliated entities. Now, he was also going to prison. And we confronted with his financial wrongdoing by Abigail. Epstein agreed to and did return a substantial amount of the money. I wonder what that number is. Even while continuing to maintain his total innocence of any wrongdoing, never dropping the con. He never dropped the con. I will say this, though. The con artists never drop the con. They double down, they triple down. Once they're exposed, they go to another location. Although I'll say Les Wexner sounds like he's maybe in on the con a little. Sounds like one of them to me. This dude went before Congress and is like, I had no idea for 25 years he was stealing my money and that he's trafficking young girls. I thought he was leading a youth revival and doing philanthropy. I thought he was, I'm so dumb. How did I even make these billions of dollars? I'm so stupid, was his testimony today. So, I don't know if I believe you, Wex, Les. Whatever. All right, so moving on from victim Les Wexner. He was truly victimized. Believe all Les's, you know. Hashtag Les2. Wex2. Bill Clinton has been making similar ridiculous claims over the past couple of weeks in regards to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I'm going to prove with court documents that his claims are false as F. And if they are not raised, if the questions I present are not asked, which they won't be, then it's all a joke. It's all facade, because you can easily expose Bill Clinton's lies. Easily. Yeah. If I'm in there, I don't even need 5 minutes. I don't need to, what they say, what's it called when they say, give me back my time? Reclaiming my time. I don't need to reclaim time. Give me 2.5 minutes and I will expose everything. That's what I tell the chick. Give me 2.5 minutes and everything's going to be satisfied. It was an inappropriate joke during such a dramatic context. Nevertheless, him and Hillary are testifying, and these hearings are going to be behind closed doors. Hillary and Bill have been going on networks, doing interviews, posting, saying, we want this to be out in front of the public. We want transparency. I completely agree with them on this. Absolutely. Like I said, I think it's going to make it difficult for people to believe everything that goes on, because you can't see what questions they didn't ask. You can't witness them not asking the right questions. If it's not public, maybe we'll get to read the transcripts. Maybe they'll edit the transcripts. I don't know. This needs to be public. I am with Hillary and Bill on this one. Nevertheless, in recent weeks, in the past couple of days, even including this morning, Bill and Hillary Clinton, sometimes as themselves, posting or doing interviews. Sometimes their spokespeople are doing it for them. Other times, as in the case of the letter that Bill sent to the House Oversight Committee in July, it's his lawyer speaking on his behalf, have made a number of claims that are provably false, so easily disprovable. Like I said, I'm a little surprised they're that bold with it. It's like they don't care. Maybe they don't. Here are some of the statements that they've made through these themselves and all these other surrogates that are easy to disprove. And the official letter sent to the House Oversight Committee in January, Bill Clinton's lawyer said that the president and Secretary Clinton have no connection to federal law enforcement. They have no connection to federal law enforcement efforts aimed at Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell. That's false. That's blatantly false. I'll show you in a second. He also said that neither Bill Clinton or Hillary has any information about the federal government's enforcement of the sex trafficking law, and specifically its handling of the investigation and prosecution of Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell. Fact check, way false. In the same letter, Clinton's lawyer claimed that Bill had, quote, no relationship whatsoever to the law enforcement efforts involved in the Epstein investigation. Reiterating this point yet again, the statement says that President Clinton declared that as a private citizen after leaving office in January of 2001, I did not direct or oversee or participate in the handling of the investigations or prosecutions of Epstein or Maxwell's cases. False, 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 and false. This is going to come down to what the definition of is. What the definition of ties is. All of this is going to be Bill Clinton arguing the definitions of words, because this stuff is so untrue. And finally, earlier this week on X, Bill's spokesperson said, quote, at the time that the photos were released in December, which were some photos of Bill, I think in the swimming pool with Maxwell, these were decades old, and Clinton had stopped associating with Epstein before his crimes came to light. False, false, false. And one more, and then I will show you the proof that this stuff is not true. According to NBC, Bill Clinton has said that he was unaware of Epstein's crimes, and he cut ties, again, reiterating the previous false statement. He cut ties before Epstein was charged in 2006 with having sex with a minor. No, he did not. Let me show you the plea negotiation letter that helped get Jeffrey Epstein that sweetheart deal. Can you guys see that? No. I'll come to the comments towards the end of this. What's going on? I love AM Wake Up. Those guys are great. Thank you for joining. All right. Yeah, I'll hit the comments once we get through this stuff here. So this is, let me get the page here, page 21. I've shown this a number of times. I've done a number of shows on this. Exhibit 46, the plea negotiation letter in the Epstein files. This was just now released in the Epstein files that were published recently. It had never before, except by me, as far as I can tell, been released in full publicly. I got my website taken down when I first published this entire document because the lawyer, some of the victims directed me to it on Pacer in 2016, right around the election, because I was like, are these candidates both associated with pedophiles? That's why I wanted to research it. Contacted the lawyer. He directed me to Pacer. I know how to use Pacer. I went to law school, and it was thousands of documents, and I found this document. I talked about it on WSB. Ultimately, we got kicked off WSB. Website got taken down every time I put this document on it. Now, finally, the full document has been published in a way that is acceptable to talk about, even though it's actually been in the public domain for 10 years. Just it hasn't been discoverable through any Google searches because you had to find it on Pacer. So this is in the documents if you want to search for this document. And what this document is a plea negotiation letter written by Alan Dershowitz, the lawyer for Jeffrey Epstein at the time. This is in regards to the case in the Southern District of Florida. That first case that he ended up getting the 13-month slap on the wrist when he was facing potentially life in prison, but he got the sweetheart deal because of the help of his powerful friends. This letter, written by Dershowitz in July 6th of 2007, remember Clinton said he cut off all contact in 2006, sent to Alex Acosta, the prosecutor in the Southern District of Florida. And in September of that year, shortly after this letter was sent, plea deal was signed, went into effect the next year. And in this letter, there are the case is made for why you need to just back off of Jeffrey. You can read the whole thing and come to your own conclusion. Sounds kind of like a threat. Look at all our powerful people and the powerful organizations Jeffrey is associated with. And he's just a wonderful philanthropist with a few, he's weird, few kinks, wonderful philanthropist. In this entire letter, there are only 5 specifically named individuals who are used as character references because of their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein as a way to persuade the Southern District of Florida prosecutors to say, all right, look what we're up against. We better take this deal. 5 people were chosen to make that case. Let's put these 5 guys in here, and there's no way they don't take a deal if we drop these names. Bill Clinton is one of those 5 guys. I'll show you here in a moment. The other 5 that I've talked about many, many times are Martin Novick, Roger Schnack, Lawrence Krauss, and Martin Seligman. This is his scientific army. These are the elitists that he funded their programs at UPenn, at Arizona State University, at Harvard University. The other guy was he created simulations for the Department of Defense, a lot of classified work. I mean, these were very powerful people. One of them is still conducting military training. He was the learned helplessness guy. Ted Kaczynski wrote his manifesto based off one of this guy's work. I mean, I've already done shows on this, but these other 4 guys, their names aren't as widely known, more so they are now than before. Very powerful people, all going to the billionaires' dinners, considered the top scientist in the world. Epstein's funding them. Their names, those 4, along with old Bill Clinton. And here he is. This is the document that initially revealed that Epstein funded the creation of the Clinton Global Initiative. They would show that picture. They wouldn't show the whole document before, but now the whole thing's been out there. It's just out there. There's Alan Dershowitz's signature on the bottom of this letter. Let me show you Clinton. All right, so here it mentions the New York Magazine, former President Bill Clinton described Epstein as a committed philanthropist with a keen sense of global markets and an in-depth knowledge of 21st century science. President Clinton reached this conclusion during the month-long trip to Africa with Mr. Epstein, which Mr. Epstein hosted. And then you come down here, it talks about Council on Foreign Relations, and then you have the Clinton Global Initiative. He was part of the original group that conceived of the Clinton Global Initiative. That's 3 mentions of Clinton right there. And then you have Seligman and all these other guys. Okay. This letter, their names were used to get a sex criminal facing potentially life in prison. Again, a slap on the wrist where he received 13 months. He got to go home on the weekends. He was in a prison, in the wing of the prison he funded the building of. And he could do anything he wanted. State charges. This letter, these names were integral in making that happen, okay? Bill Clinton said, and Hillary, online these past few weeks, that he had no connection, no ties to the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein. He didn't oversee anything. He wasn't president anymore. No, well, he had no ties to the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein. He had ties to the case on the defense side. He absolutely had ties to Epstein after 2006 when he said he stopped cutting off all ties. This is a tie to Epstein. Your name being the most prominent and powerful one in the list of only 5 specifically named individuals used as character references to give this man a deal. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. Plea negotiation letter written by Alan Dershowitz a year later. That is a tie to Jeffrey Epstein. One that no one, as far as I can tell, has ever asked Bill Clinton about. And he has never spoken about. Why would you put these names in here if they weren't going to be on your boy's side? 3 of these men, Lawrence Cross, Martin Novick, and Roger Stack, after Epstein got out, all enthusiastically continued to take his money because he funded most of their careers, especially Novick, and enthusiastically supported him, saying their lives have benefited from him. They don't see anything wrong with what they don't believe he did anything that he was accused of. Snuck him around, brought him back around co-eds at Harvard in the case of Novick. Tried to rehabilitate his image. Tried to lobby for Harvard to rehabilitate his image. Went to visit him in prison. Three of those guys, before and after, so you see the stake they had in him getting out of prison. That's why they would lend their names to such a document. Yes, get my boy out. I need that money. I need that money. Get my boy out. The other 2, Martin Seligman, Bill Clinton, as I said, just like Bill, never been asked ever in the public domain about their inclusion in such a damning document. This is the most damning document that exists that you cannot argue against. People speculate about things through emails. This is a court document, plea letter written by his attorneys, sent to Alex Costa, pitching, arguing, here's why you better take this deal that we're setting up. 2 months later, the deal is signed officially, goes into play the next year. How do you not bring these 5 people in and ask them why their name is in this letter? Now let me read to you what Bill Clinton posted on his X profile. Then we'll come back to this just a couple of weeks ago. This is extraordinary, the audacity here, in light of what we just revealed. This is kind of hard to see. Here, hold on. I'm going to save this image and see if I can pull it up a different way. This is an official statement that was Bill Clinton posted to his X profile. It was in January, in response to the subpoena request for him and Hillary to testify. And he said, yeah, I still can't see that. All right, there we go. I'll put it on the screen. All right, here's what he said. Make that a little smaller. You got the official thing there. William Jefferson Clinton, Hillary Rodham Clinton, January 13th, 2026. Excuse me. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I just want to read the pertinent parts here. All right. Okay, I got to go back. That gummit. It's like 3 pages. I downloaded the wrong page. Sorry. Download all of them. My apologies. Talk amongst yourselves while I get all of these Clinton documents going. All right, just to show you that it is his account, you can see here Hillary, Bill Clinton, and Bill's post said this is not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. So you can see all the posts there. And I think page 2 is the one. Okay. Look, I'm just going to do this. This is not... Bill doesn't want us reading. This thing is so small. I can hardly see it. Okay. It says... No. This is a disaster. No, it's page 2. Okay. You know what? I'm just going to read it to you. Okay. It's in there. You can go to his like, you can find it. You can go read it. It's true. This is what he said. Bill said, we have tried to give you the little information we have in regards to the request, the subpoena. We've tried to give you the little information we have about Jeffrey Epstein. We've done so because Mr. Epstein's crimes were horrific. This is the guy who was in the plea negotiation letter for the defense. Says, we've tried to give you the little info we have because we understand that Epstein's crimes were horrific. But if the government didn't do all it could to investigate and prosecute these crimes for whatever reason, well, we know for what reason. Because the plea deal happened, of which you helped make a reality. If they didn't do all they could to investigate and prosecute the crimes, that should be the focus of your work, and it is actually the focus of their work, is to learn why and to prevent that from happening ever again. There is no evidence, said Bill, that you're doing this. Instead, he says, you have forced the victims to relive their painful experience while doing little to give them and everybody else what's deserved, truth and justice. I mean, that's crazy. The dude was a character reference for the sex criminal facing life in prison that helped him get the sweetheart deal, saying, you're not doing what you need. Well, why didn't you do what you need for these horrific crimes? He helped him get off from the horrific crimes. He then says there's no plausible explanation for what you're doing other than partisan politics. I beg to differ, Mr. Clinton. And finally, he says, if you continue to mislead Americans about what is truly at stake, and then you will learn that Americans are better at finding the truth than you are at burying it, period. Well, I will say that this is the truth, and he's not telling it. He calls the crimes that Epstein committed horrific, and I know I'm hammering this home. He still allowed his name to be used as a defense by the defense in the plea negotiation letter that helped Mr. Epstein, who committed these horrific crimes, as President Clinton described them, escape the justice of potentially life in prison that he was facing. Why aren't you helping the victims? I know nothing about this prosecution. Oh, wait a minute. You helped the defense, and you were actually involved with the legacy behind your name, the power and influence that comes with it. Why are you re-victimizing these people who were suffered from? Why did you help the guy who made them suffer get a slap on the wrist and continue to pursue whatever activities that Les Wexner definitely knew nothing about? That victimized even more people. These are provable lies he's telling. And this document is evidence of it. The only defense that Bill Clinton could have is if he were to claim he knew nothing about this document. I've known about this document for 10 years. It's been in court records on Pacer for at least 10 years. Bill Clinton didn't know anything about it. This is why the questions, and if you're listening, Congress, this is what you ask Bill Clinton next week if you're serious about exposing the lies that he told to you in that letter to the House Oversight Committee and in these public statements his spokesperson has made, his lawyer has made, and his wife has made, and he himself has made. Here is how you expose these lies and get some answers from him. Because the only way, not even the only way. Let's just go into the questions. You ask him, Mr. President, you described this document I just described, and there's no denying its validity and what it is, or that his name is in it. One of only 5 names specifically mentioned because of the power behind them. He said, do you know how this document, this plea letter with your name was used? And that this very document successfully helped negotiate the sweetheart deal that enabled Epstein to avoid justice for the crimes that you yourself called horrific. Are you familiar with this? This is the first question you ask him. You have the document up there. You put it on the board. If he says no, well, then the question needs to be raised. If it's common practice during a federal negotiation over what kind of sentence a sex criminal is going to get, is it common practice that a high-profile attorney like Alan Dershowitz would use the leverage and power behind the name of a former president to help shrink a potential life in prison sentence to 13-month slap on the wrist? Half the time in an ankle brace at his house. Is it custom in the legal practice to use a president's name to get that deal without telling that president or asking him beforehand? Yeah, just throw his name in there. He won't care. Is that how it works? And also on the other side of that to ask, is it custom practice for the prosecutor to say, you know what? He said Bill Clinton is boys with him. He mentions multiple times. It must be true. Is that custom for them to not verify? When there's a reference, a character reference on a resume for a job, you just believe it? Or do you call the person up and say, hey, your name was used here. Are you okay with this? Do you sign off on this? Of course, those questions will be directed to Dershowitz and Acosta. But for Clinton himself, if he truly claimed that he didn't know his name was used here, then the question becomes, Mr. President, when did you first find out that your name was used for this purpose that you just yesterday said the man who you helped get off committed horrific crimes that the government needs to pursue so they don't you literally let it happen? So when did you find out about that? Just now? Did you just now find out about this? Or did someone tell you before? Like, like if he says he just found out about it, then his argument, he has to make the case that despite this document being in the public records and one of the most high-powered lawyers in the world, and Epstein and all these other people involved, Alex Acosta, that no one thought to tell Bill Clinton that his name had been leveraged for those purposes. And they just let him go around stupidly. Like that he'd have to make that case. And he'd also have to claim to be very stupid like Les Wexner. He'd have to play dumb. I'm the stupidest person there is. I never saw that. So that would be the argument. So that's a difficult argument to make. If he were to say that, yes, he was made aware of how his name was used in this document that helped a sex criminal avoid justice for crimes he called horrific, then the question becomes, what did you do when you found that out, Mr. President? Did you go to the press and speak out and say, this plea deal should be invalidated? My name was leveraged to help make it happen, and I did not sign off on that, and I do not agree with it, and I'm disgusted by the fact that it helped this monster escape the justice that he deserves. Did you do that? Because there's no record of you doing that. Did you go to the judge and say, invalidate this now? Invalidate this now and demand it. You have a lot of power. You could do something like that, Mr. President. Did you do any of that? Or did you do nothing? Did you just let it happen? Did you just live knowing that you are the reason, you are a large part of the reason that the man who you say committed horrific crimes escaped justice the way that he did got to do exactly that? Nobody has ever heard you speak on this. You get to the bottom of why he has never spoken after the fact of his claim as he didn't know before, denouncing it. If he did know before, you ask him why he did it. This is how you pin Clinton down. This is how you're not going to get answers because he'll shut down, he'll spin it. He's good at that. But these are the questions that should be asked, because then that would open the door to subpoenas for those other 4 guys in that document. Because this is the most provable thing with concrete evidence that nobody can question. Nobody can question that these 5 guys and their names helped make that deal happen that many people call the most corrupt plea deal of all time. This isn't speculation. This isn't left-right politics. This is a document written by the defense lawyers to the prosecutors, giving the pitch and the argument, let my boy off, look how powerful he is and his friends are, which happened and was sent 2 months before the plea deal was finalized. They were negotiating the whole time and signed. Everybody's focusing on the sensationalistic stuff, the salacious stuff. This is the stuff where you can get answers. Martin Seligman is still Dr. Happy conducting experiments worldwide, and his brainwashing test of valor scores and well, what were the other ones? Psychological resilience scores, which was a brainwashing test that he was paid $31 million by the government to conduct on the Army shortly after his name was in this document to help Epstein get off. It was considered to be against the Nuremberg Code by everyone at the time because none of the soldiers knew they were part of this experiment, where he bragged about, you're going to get more data about the psychology of these soldiers than ever before, and we're going to be able to use that data to convince those who have PTSD to happily, because I'm Dr. Happy, run back into war and to set aside their lives and their feeling, their personal ambitions, or anything that is personal to them for the group and the commands of their sergeant. And if they are a problem, this is how his brainwashing of the Army experiments worked. If they questioned their authorities at all and showed any resistance towards throwing their bodies on a bomb, basically, on command, they were given a low psychological resiliency score, which means they're a problem. They're doing an AI experiment, funded experiment, to capture this guy's wisdom after he dies so they can continue to benefit from it. He is the brainwasher in chief of the United States government. He's considered by these academic rankings to be the most influential psychologist in the world, 5th most influential of all time. Him and Bill Clinton never been asked why their names are in this document that helped a man who committed crimes Bill Clinton just called horrific to escape justice. You can't, there's no arguing against the proof that I just showed you. Now, they can spin it, but this is the real stuff. And if they don't ask these questions, if they don't bring this up, then it's all just a joke. And I suspect that it's going to end up, I would tear, if I was in Congress for this, I would tear this apart. I would destroy Bill Clinton. He would not have a chance. These people in Congress, they've either never seen this document or their job is to make sure it doesn't come up, is my opinion. Dr. Feelgood. Yeah. Dr. Jolin. All right. Something on a little bit of a lighter note, just to get out of here. You know, I'm glad. It's always good. I went to the gym. I told the story, I think, yesterday. I was at LA Fitness yesterday. And in walks a guy. He's probably close to 70. So it's good he's in the gym. He's got jeans on. He's got brown dress loafers. He's got a purple shirt. He's got glasses on. And he's got Mardi Gras beads around his neck. And dude didn't stop by the changing room before he went to work. He went straight into leg day in that outfit. He's doing leg presses and what he probably wore to church on Sunday with, for some reason, Mardi Gras beads around his neck. I know it's that time of year, but I was a little confused by that. Although I did consider he was doing the leg press right next to the crotch open and closer that many females do. Maybe he believed that if he sat there and threw some beads over to the side, he would see some breast. I don't know. But up until today, I was going to give him one of the worst gym outfits that I'd seen in a long time. I think he was new to the gym, so I don't want to give him too much of a hard time. But fortunately today, he's not the champion of a bad look in the gym anymore. Kid Rock is. Kid Rock is your new champion of how not to look in a gym with his RFK, Kid Rock and RFK Jr. What are these two? Well, we all know what these two talk about, actually. We know what they talked about from the beginning of this workout to the end. There's one and only one thing they have in common, and that is how deeply they value the woman's vagina. That's the only subject of conversation they can relate to at all. What are they going to talk about? Writing song lyrics or, healthcare? No, they're going to talk about that pee the entire time. Can you see that? Is that on the screen? No, wait, no. The computer's messing up. All right, how about now? Okay. Here he is. Get that out of here. I'm going to play this for you. There's Kid Rock and RFK Jr. RFK ripped for a 70-year-old. Oh, why is he always wearing jeans? Why does maybe boomers only work out in jeans? Maybe their legs, it's a problem with their legs, but wear sweatpants. I just don't know how you work out in such tight jeans. Kid Rock looks like a homeless person, hammered drunk, who's about to try and sell you one of his old USB cords. I got a USB cord. Somebody did that to me. I got out of the car to go to the gas station on the way over here today. And this guy comes up. He goes, hey, man. I was like, no, dude. He goes, no, but I got this USB cord for sale. Oh, well, you should have started with that. That's what Kid Rock looks like. Look at this ridiculous video. And they're eating. What are they eating at Steak and Shake there? Sorry, I gotta see if they're eating Steak and Shake. Look at this image here. All right, Kid Rock's ripping his shirt off. So they start off with shirts on. And you see kind of the editing image. They make it look like Kid Rock, like faintly you can see an eagle's wing there. This is so ridiculous. All right, they're walking into the gym. Like 60-year-old Kid Rock rips his clothes off, his shirt off. And he would cut to him serving food, cut back. Look at this picture here. Where are they? This image of the montage appears to be RFK Jr. eating a steak at some restaurant and Kid Rock creepily sneaking up behind him. This is the weirdest picture. Why would you put this in here? There he is taking his shirt off again. There they are with the American flag. Throws his shirt down. RFK Jr. holding Kid Rock's legs so he can do curl sit-ups. It's so funny to me. All right, now RFK Jr. I mean, the dude's ripped for 70. I don't know what this is, like a sauna, and you got RFK Jr. doing I don't know what that bike's called. You got Kid Rock. You got Kid Rock doing push-ups in the back. So this had to be a quick clip because there's no way Kid Rock can do any more than 4 or 5 push-ups in one. What is he doing? RFK Jr. just got in like a hot tub that's in gyms. Not a hot tub, you know what I mean? One of those like baths to like soothe your muscles. In his jeans, he jumped in a body of water with a full pair of jeans on. What is he doing? The G's with the 40s and the chicks with B. they still wear it? These pants are soaking wet.
Where's Kim?
All the crackheads, the critics, the cynics, and all my heroes at the methadone clinics. All you bastards at the IRS for the crooked.
Oh, now they're going to play pickleball. Now RFK Jr. is going to play pickleball in soaking wet jeans that he just got into a bathtub in.
And the cluttered desks for the shots of Jack. Hit the caps of meth, half pints of love, and the fists of stress for the hookers all tricking out in Hollywood. And for my hoods,
Hookers. That's what they can relate on, is hookers and drugs.
the world misunderstood.
A whole milk. It says whole milk on this.
I said it's all good and it's all in fun. Then get in the pit and try to love someone.
Make America healthy again. I think we should start that trend. I think everybody this summer should start swimming in the tightest jeans they have. You know, people used to swim in the bathing suit when you were a kid. Somebody, they didn't feel comfortable. They would wear the T-shirt with the bathing suit. Let's flip it. We take the shirt off. We leave the jeans on. What's wrong with RFK Jr.'s legs that he doesn't want us to see? Does he have legs? Are they robotic? That's where we need to subpoena him. And we need to get to the bottom of what is underneath RFK Jr.'s legs. And finally, on another positive note, the Olympics, which I don't find interesting at all, the Winter Olympics, had a four-legged competitor join one of the, was this skiing contest? I think this is earlier. I just know I'd rather watch a dog run across snow than some dudes with poles sticking in the snow every day of the week. Speaking of which, look at this guy. Look at this guy in the quarterfinals of America's Next Top Pet. Send your votes in for Edmund Dog, who won't even know how appreciated he is. I'll tell him, and I'll help him feel that with toys and love. But I was looking at all the other people, all the other dogs in this contest, and here's the link in the chats. And I'm like, none of these dogs have any idea that some of these dogs could be the biggest social media stars. Some of them probably are. More followers than most people would ever have. And they have no idea. They just want to play and get pets. That's why I love dogs. I like cats all right too, but I'm more of a dog guy. They promised me aliens for this show. Well, I referenced we were going to go back to aliens. I'll pull up the story that you tweeted at me. What was it? You tweeted that at me, right? The one about the British doing the... It was like an alien reference I saw earlier. I think you tweeted that at me. Let me find it. From The Independent, Bank of England must plan for crisis if triggered by aliens. Let me see if I can find that. Bank of England must plan for crisis. So isn't the Bank of England the one that George Soros shorted and made all his money somehow? That'd be interesting if that was the same. All right, let's take a look at this article. Well, we can do that. We'll do a little aliens. Do a little bit of aliens here. Joint plunge, jort plunge. Yeah, right. Yeah, Kid Rock wears the jean shorts. Yeah, I bet neither one of them had a bathing suit on. Wear a bathing suit. It's just that's not comfortable to swim in jeans or jorts, jean jorts. Bank of England. This is the headline. Get this guy off of here. What is? I hate these things that pop-ups. Must plan for the financial trigger by aliens, says former policy expert. The markets could collapse if American government confirms the existence of alien life. The UK must plan for that crisis that will be triggered if they announce that aliens exist. Well, they could announce it. Why they got to depend on us? They can get ahead of it. Helen McCraw, who served as a senior analyst in the financial security at the UK Central Bank, has written to Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England's governor, probably both homo and a lesbian, if I'm guessing, because they're from the UK. I'm sorry. Urging him to set out contingencies in case the White House ever confirms the existence of alien life. Confirms it as though they already know. Ms. McCraw, who worked for the Bank of England for 10 years until 2012, said politicians and bankers can no longer afford to dismiss talk of alien life and warned a declaration of this nature could trigger bank collapses. So this is an ontological shock, is what this is called. This is what David Grush, when he first came out and started talking about this, how he saw the program. Actually, David Grush, the military guy who testified before Congress, he said he knows of the existence of aliens and the craft retrieval program and all this other stuff, even though he's seen none of it. It's all second and third hand. And even though we later learned that David Grush, according to the guy who initially interviewed him, and he's the one who launched all of this, is autistic in a way, according to the guy who interviewed him, the British guy, that he doesn't understand emotion or emotional cues. This is the insider revealing. So he doesn't know if the people who are telling him things are being sarcastic or joking. He only knows the text of it. This is kind of what this guy says. This is the main source, who is a secondary and thirdary, new word, source. They roll these guys out there to be the sources for these things that, for me, there's nothing about them that you can trust. And unfortunately, the claims they're making, you can't confirm them. You can't corroborate them yourself. And it all seems like smoke and mirrors. I have always believed that aliens exist, personally. But I don't believe what they're trying to tell us right now. But they might do something, though. They've been preparing us for something. They wouldn't have had this in the discourse for the past 7 years, starting in 2017 with the New York Times, and then Tucker Carlson, and it slowly built from there. She reportedly said that the United States government appears to be partway through a multi-year process to declassify and disclose information on the existence of a technologically advanced non-human intelligence responsible for the UAPs. I agree with that. They do appear to be partway through a multi-year process of doing that. That's a good way to describe it. If the UAP proves to be of non-human origin, we may have to acknowledge the existence of a power or intelligence greater than any government with potentially unknown intentions. And this is where I have a problem believing that they would actually reveal to the public the existence of actual beings with technology greater than us that we don't understand, that we're ants compared to. There's nothing we could do, because it immediately takes their power over us away. They are no longer the people in charge. So someone who's on top of the power structure to announce there's someone who's much higher than me on the power structure that I don't even understand or know how to handle, makes that person previously in power on equal footing as everybody else, in my opinion. So I don't know why they would undermine their own power, unless they're like, I'm here to announce the existence of aliens. Come on out. Come on out. And he brings an alien out. This is my good friend. We're best friends. And he only works through me. So they got to make themselves like the Pope when it comes to the communication with aliens. They'll only work with us, so you have to communicate with us to them. I can see them doing that little Pope situation. And then you have the argument that people will make that aliens are demons. So that's an argument that's definitely going to be heating up. It already has. Her warning comes as senior American officials have recently indicated their belief in the possibility of alien life. In a recent UFO documentary, The Age of Disclosure, which is a piece of trash, by the way, a documentary. It's just congressional hearing, exact same thing. They said, same people, but in a nicer room with mahogany wood around them. It's nothing new. 34 insiders, including those from the military and intelligence community, spoke about an 80-year global cover-up of non-human intelligent life and a secret war among major nations to reverse engineer advanced technology of non-human origin. By the way, ontological shock that David Grush used, the speech he used during that congressional hearing was almost verbatim the speech that Mulder gave in season 6 of X-Files, except Mulder was on the opposite side of it. Mulder was saying this ontological shock that you say we're going to experience. Mulder was at the point where he no longer believed. So I thought that was interesting. But I just watched that episode when I watched that congressional hearing, and I was like, that's almost Mulder's speech, but on the other side of it. The director, Dan Farah, spoke with sources including the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, New York Democrat Senator Kristen Gillibrand, and former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. See, James Clapper is like, you bring James Clapper in the room, I don't believe a word he says. Doesn't mean he doesn't say true things, but his history is one where what he does most consistently is lie and act as a propaganda agent. So bringing James Clapper in, saying he's a military official, has no influence over me at all on whether or not I trust what he says, because I don't. They came to discuss the government's work, the UAPs. Marco Rubio was in the documentary, and he said we had instances of something operating in the airspace of restricted nuclear facilities, and it's not ours. So that statement right there, there's a lot of statements in the documentary like that left the door open as to whether it was going to be a UFO from another planet, extraterrestrial, or maybe it's going to be an adversarial technology that we're not familiar with, which is what I think they're ultimately going to reveal it to be. To me, this all kind of points to a global conflict thing and a reason to justify, as I said last night, pumping that, military industrial complex. We better build up these weapon systems. The discombobulator, everybody needs one. Because we are seeing that. Wasn't that a weird story about how the discombobulator, as he called it, all of a sudden is making people's eyes bleed? And they had the guy who was Maduro's security guard or something. He's just, America's scary. They had these weapons that nobody's ever seen before, and they sound exactly like Havana syndrome weapons, which apparently there's a story today about, was it the Dutch? There's a scientist, and I can't remember what country. It might have been the Dutch, who last year, in 2024, he was skeptical about the claims of Havana syndrome, a directed energy weapon that since like 2017, 60 Minutes has been doing shows on, and people in the intel community claim to have been victimized by in Cuba. And this guy apparently, according to the story, and this was in the Washington Post, I think this week, built this weapon because he didn't believe it could be built and work, and tried it on himself like a good scientist, and it worked. And it effed him up. And then we sent a bunch of like CIA agents over there after that to talk to him, is the story on that. I mean, this stuff is more interesting to me than like all the stuff we see in the news on a regular basis. So whatever, bring it on, I say. Ms. McCall said UAP disclosure is likely to, see what I'm saying here? It's likely to induce ontological shock. That term, they laid that out there a year ago, and they've been subtly putting it in there because they do that. They pick these terms. They want to make it adapted in popular culture, and they subtly start putting it in there in all different angles, and that's one of them. It'll induce ontological shock and provoke psychological responses with material consequences. There might be extreme price volatility in financial markets due to catastrophizing or euphoria, and a collapse in confidence if market participants feel uncertain on how to price assets using any of the familiar methods. Because aliens are here. What does the market matter? The former Bank of England worker explained there might be a rush towards assets such as gold or other precious metals and government bonds, which are perceived as safe. This is war talk, is what this is. Alternatively, she said precious metals might lose their status as a perceived safety asset if people speculate the new spacefaring technologies will soon increase the supply of precious metals. Did you bring us any new precious metals, aliens? You didn't come empty-handed to the party, did you? If he announces this, and I hope this happens, it better not just be a statement. You better bring an MF and alien on. At least try and fool us. Make it seem real. Bring one on and be like, we can shoot it with a gun right in the head. The hole will blow its head open, and then it'll grow a new head. Watch it. Just like just do the Men in Black thing where you blow the alien's head off so we can all watch it regrow out of its neck. Then you'll have some believers. Everybody come down. We're gonna send aliens to every single state. We're gonna let every American blow an alien's head off just so they can watch it regrow itself from a little baby form. It's disgusting, but this is the most transparent administration in American history. And the only one the aliens will talk to, quite frankly, they told me they wanted to come here, but they didn't want to talk to Bill or George W. or certainly not Barack Obama. They would only talk to Trump. William Casey, 1981. We know our disinformation campaign is complete when everything the American public believes is false. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Where'd I go? Oh, there I am. Oh, yeah. I forgot I was doing this. All right. I got to get out of here. It's late. Stephen Hawking. Yeah. Stephen Hawking. I haven't gone into the Stephen Hawking searches in the Epstein files yet. How long was I frozen for? I'm trying to get this new technology I have to work, but it does freeze sometimes. I'm trying to figure out why. Project Bluebeam. Yep. Yeah, I'm not frozen right now. Was it for like a long time or just like a few minutes that I was frozen? It's probably when I had all those sites open. I bet that's what it was. All right, guys. Propagandafight.com is the website. Thanks for hanging out with me and for the comments. And I will be a guest tomorrow on Liberty Libations with the Georgia Libertarian Party of Georgia guys. I hosted their show because Jake was out a few weeks ago. I want to be a guest on it tomorrow night. That show is at 8:30. And I will stream it to this channel probably as well, as long as they are cool with it. Ryan Bradley says, not gonna, all of the people through environmental and biochemical manipulation of the brain. Yeah, Brzezinski. Yeah. They love to experiment with the brain stuff. That's one of the things. See, people are searching for a lot of the salacious stuff in the Epstein files. What I've been searching for is the words in the chalkboard, the dark brain, Martin Novick, the power, the manipulation, deception stuff, and it brings up, I think some pretty interesting stuff. Hi, thought. Oh, I thought you called me a thought. Hit that. I thought you said hi, thought. It's like, all right. You guys have a great rest of your evening or early morning, depending on where you are. See y'all.